Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I could be a bouncer at a club.
Yes,
Get people
yes.
like... All right. So I do need to introduce you. I apologize. And it's going to be a little bit of a long one. Is that okay?
That's totally okay.
Okay.
You have 14 minutes left.
No, that's okay. People love me. That's fine. So, guys, this is Dohmke. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely.
I am so awesome. Oh, my word. All right, so Thomas grew up in Germany and has built a career building tools developers love and accelerating innovations that are changing software forever. He is currently the CEO of GitHub. Do we know what that is?
Yeah,
Yes, Copilot.
yeah.
There we go. Rock star status. That's what I'm saying. All right. Can we get going? I'm going to ask you a really difficult one from the get-go. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you guys ready? Okay, this audience is very mindful, very demure. I don't like that very much. Come on, guys.
They need more caffeine.
Yeah, you know,
not enough
millennials,
coffee. Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just come on. All right. So a little birdie told me that this is your first time in South Africa, actually Africa as a continent. Number one, what took you so long? And number two, how are you finding it?
So I started traveling. So yes, it's my first time in Africa. So first time in South Africa, first time in Cape Town.
Yes, there we go. Well done.
I started traveling when I was 16 years old in the mid-90s. So it only took me 30 years to make it to Africa. I guess the world is a big place and there's many exciting places to cover, to explore. But you know, 30 years of patience also means I'm even more excited, and I had an amazing first 2 days. I went to University of Stellenbosch yesterday. I saw the Cape, and now I'm here and really excited to talk to you all.
Fantastic. And they say German engineering is like innovative and stuff. It took you 30 years with German engineering. Okay. All right. So talk to us briefly about Copilot. Like, what is the origin story?
So, you know, put yourself back into mid of 2020, right? It's the pandemic, COVID is raging, we are all in lockdown, and we get early access to, back then, OpenAI's best model, GPT-3. And we were on a Zoom call. One of my team members had the keyboard, and we were just dictating prompts and say, ask this, ask that. And we asked, you know, write a method in JavaScript to calculate a prime number, and just did it. And it was like a mind-blowing moment when you know programming languages, how the model is able to actually put the parentheses and the colons and all these things in the right place. And so we are a software company, and as every company that has software developers, we're all struggling with building stuff fast enough, as fast as our mind goes, as fast as our customers provide us feedback, as fast as all the bugs that are coming up. And so you're like, oh, maybe you can make our developers a little bit more productive. You know, 10%, as the previous speaker said, on 40 hours is 4 hours a week. That's actually amazing. 10% sounds small, but you know, 10% of 40 hours is 4 hours, and that's a lot of time for developers to do stuff. And so we start building, and I think we had, you know, we had a single model. We infused it into where developers were writing code, so we didn't, you know, invent something completely new. We just put it into the editor, and it predicts the next word or the next line or multiple lines of code. And the magical thing about this is really that developers are already used to getting incomplete predictions. You know, they're copy and pasting code off the internet all the time, and so whether the model hallucinates or not doesn't really matter, because you keep writing. You know, if you don't see the right code, if it doesn't work, well, we have a compiler and we have unit tests and all these things in technology to make it work for us. And magically, you know, a year later, we go into public preview, and within a few weeks, we see it writing 25% of the code in those files where it's used. Me like, that can't be true. You know, this isn't. This, and so we sent the engineers back and say, go and validate the telemetry and make sure this is actually the numbers. And it turned out to be true. And here we are 4 years later. And obviously, you know, AI has changed the world. It has changed this conference.
Yeah, that deserves a round of applause. Come on, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. Like I said to you earlier, I remember the day I decided I was not going to be a developer. I was sitting at, I was doing my exam, my program didn't want to work, and there was just what is that thing? An inverted comma thing missing, and I was just like, this is not for me. No, I need people. So this is really, if that was there, I would have not been sitting here. I was probably in space somewhere. All right. So at GitHub Universe, you shared some pretty exciting announcements, right? You called it phase 2 of AI code generation. Tell me what that entails, including the idea of multi-model choice.
Yeah. So when we started, as I mentioned, we had one model, GPT-3. We infused AI into the workflow, and we really just built a single feature, as trivial as that sounds today, auto-completion. Now, over the last few years, we went from auto-completion to chat. And if you look into the tech press every day or every week now, there's a new model coming or an improved version of the previous model. And so we believe developers no longer just want to have one model available to them. They want to choose between different models for different tasks that they have to do, writing code, testing code, simple things like converting, one file that they get from their product manager or their leader into the format that they actually need in the application. So we believe you now need multiple models, and developers will always pick the one that's right for them and right for the job. And so we call that multi-model choice, and we still offer all the OpenAI models, but we also have Anthropic's Claude model, Google's Gemini model, and we have a whole range of open source model available in GitHub models. So that's number one. Number two is that we believe it's no longer just about infusing AI in existing tools. That's still important because we all have tools in our lives that we want to keep using, but we believe we're moving into a world where things are AI native. They are like designed for AI in mind, and so one of these things that we're working on is called Copilot Workspace, that takes you from an idea, from a description of a feature, all the way to the code that you're submitting to your team for review, in an AI native workflow. And so you don't even have to check out the code anymore. You don't, in fact, no longer need a computer. You can just do that on your cell phone, at the airport waiting for your plane to board. You can just say, open this in Workspace. It gives you a description of the changes you want to make, and you can edit all these. And in fact, you can do that in Afrikaans. It works in any human language. And then you can, make your way with the help of different agents to the pull request, which is what you submit to your team for code review. And then agents is the third thing. I think we're going to have lots of small agents, building blocks available to us that do different things in our lives. And I always like to compare that to, like, we have a dishwasher at home and a Roomba that vacuums, and maybe you have a robotic lawnmower, and obviously a thermostat in some way is agentic because it knows whether you're home or not, and then it sets the temperature for the night differently than for the day. So developers will have all these little agents that help them with the things that they don't want to do, like writing tests and fixing bugs and reviewing code, so they can focus on the things that are actually fun, which is building creative features.
Fantastic. Who are developers here?
Woo!
Okay, don't be shy. My gosh. Or embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed either. All right, so I'm going to get to more of the implementation kind of stuff. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges we face in South African organizations is balancing the old and the new. So what is your best practices for incorporating Copilot into large-scale development projects, especially when we are working with legacy code?
So I think the first thing I want to say as the CEO of a company is I just want to speak to all the leaders in the room. It starts with you. It starts with you using AI, embracing AI. If you're skeptical, your folks won't be using it either. If you're not talking about our AI, if you're not embracing it, if you're not trying out a new model or new feature every week, you won't transform your organization into becoming an AI organization. The second one is, if you think back to the 90s when the internet started and Netscape came, we all had to buy a computer, and even if you had a computer, you had to get a modem and AOL or CompuServe, so you had to spend money to get access to it. When mobile came, with the iPhone and Android, you had to buy a new mobile phone, and the mobile contract was way more expensive than the contract you had before. With AI, you don't have to buy anything. You have access to this from the devices we already have in our pocket. You have access to it through text messages if you want to. You have access to it through your voice and through your language. And so a 6-year-old can use AI. Maybe it's the cell phone of their parents, and maybe it's already their own cell phone or an iPad that they got, from a previous generation device that their father gave to them or their mother, right? And so it's much easier to access AI, to play with this, to understand what are hallucinations or not, to ask another question. And in fact, kids, I think, understand that much faster than parents or adults. Kids, if they get a wrong answer, they're not complaining on X about hallucinations. They're just asking another question. You can easily see that when you use an image model like Stable Diffusion. Well, if you don't get the image in the first attempt, well, just ask again to get another image and another image. And the same is true for Copilot. So I think it's really easy to start playing with it, to start exploring it. And then the transformation is not like the cloud transformation. It's not like the mobile transformation. You can just install Copilot and get started and get those 10%, maybe it's 20% time back in your life, whether it's during your 40-hour work week or your 20-hour weekend. To 2 hours every weekend. I mean, I would pay much more money for it than Copilot is priced today.
So what you're saying is that you're going to up your price in the next couple of...
No, we want everybody to use it. We want,
I get what you're saying. All right. So a top concern for SA is data privacy and protection, right?
Yes.
Liars. You don't care. I still get these people calling me up every 5 seconds. But anyway, apparently, a top concern for SA is data privacy and protection. How does Copilot handle sensitive data or proprietary code within a company?
First of all, privacy obviously is important, even more so as a European citizen with all the regulations, but also about our mindset on privacy. And GitHub is part of Microsoft. At Microsoft, we have a saying that Microsoft runs on trust, right? All your data, all our customers' data belongs to them. And so the same applies to AI as it applies to the cloud, as it applies to all the other products we ship. So, of course, your data stays in your ownership. It is sent to the model for model inference in an isolated way, protected, secured, and it's not used for anything else. And if you want us to use your data, for example, for something called fine-tuning, changing the model parameters to adapt to your data set, we allow you to do that, but again, it's within your tenant and it stays under your control what happens to that data. So it is crucial, for us as Microsoft, for us as GitHub to deliver on those promises and make sure that your data and your customers' data stays in their ownership.
Okay, good answer. Are we satisfied with that one? With the people who said yes in front here? There we go. We get a nod. Yeah. Sure. Nods are okay. So just last question. Yeah. GitHub wants to reach 1 billion developers. How do you think AI helped democratize software development here in South Africa and around the world?
1 billion developers, right? That sounds a bit crazy until you think about that the world is approaching 8 billion humans and 8 billion phone users, because let's face it, everybody has a smartphone or has access to a smartphone through family members, friends, or work. And I actually think, it should be every human in the world should be able to understand computer science in the same way that we're teaching kids in school, music and art and physics and chemistry and biology, and of course literacy. And in many ways, computer science is just computer literacy. And as such, it's our ambition to go from now over 100 million developers on GitHub to 1 billion and hopefully beyond that over the next decade, maybe even sooner with the help of AI. And I already mentioned that Copilot speaks Afrikaans, it speaks German, it speaks Spanish, Brazilian Portuguese, Hindi or Bahasa in Indonesia. And that might sound trivial until you realize that most 6-year-old, 7-year-old kids do not speak English. And they're much faster fascinated by technology, by Minecraft, by computer games, by YouTube and TikTok, than they are learning a second language. But at the same time, technology, this conference is predominantly spoken in English. And as such, it democratizes access by speaking the language that you speak when you want to learn something new. It democratizes access to technology because your parents do not have to have a technical background. You don't have to go to your parents and ask them, how do I build an application, how to build a game. You can just go to Copilot. And then lastly, and I don't underestimate this, AI has infinite patience. And parents do not, and coworkers do not, and your bosses do not. AI has, and AI will never come back to you and say, what a stupid question, Thomas. Right, and I think that that is the true power, right? Like there's this thing that we now have, our own Jarvis, like in Iron Man, that answers any questions that we want to get answered. And if we don't like the answer, we can actually tell them that and say, well, Copilot, this isn't actually correct, and give me a better answer, and it will apologize and then keep going.
Oh, it apologizes too.
It does apologize, yeah. If you tell it wrong, it says, well, I apologize, and let me try again.
Now, you see, that's why I'm a little skeptical.
Even that is good for kids to learn, right?
Yeah. Was it really created in Germany, though, if it apologizes? Moving on. So very, very quickly. Yeah. Python or JavaScript?
Python.
Braaivlees or bratwurst?
Bratwurst.
Now, you see, you didn't come on Sunday.
I had braai, but, it's still bratwurst. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, cancel
You said
culture,
very quick.
Guys.
You said very
culture,
quick.
this side. Fish and chips or schnitzel?
Schnitzel.
Okay, there I'm with you, though.
Vegan schnitzel, even better.
Okay, now you went too far. Okay. Rugby or cricket?
Formula One.
Okay, we are thinking outside of the box, but I've got one better. If the Formula One Grand Prix comes to South Africa, will you come back?
Yes, and both of us will walk through the paddock.
Yes, love that.
Yes.
Okay, and that is the end of our fireside chat. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
This was amazing. Rock star over here. Well
Thank
done.
you. Awesome work.